Picture this. You've just inherited a massive, sprawling chain of coffee shops. The doors open, and suddenly thousands of customers are rushing in, ordering lattes, cappuccinos, and cold brews. Your registers are ringing up millions of transactions, and your staff schedules are packed. But when you sit down to figure out if the business is profitable, you hit a wall. You pull up the data, and it's just an endless scrolling spreadsheet. To a computer, all those millions of rows are an undifferentiated wall of text. It sees the characters, but it has no way to distinguish a latte from a profit margin without instructions. Turning this into insight relies on data wrangling. It's the process of applying 3 everyday organizational skills to your spreadsheets: reading calendars, matching up lists, and sorting items into distinct piles. Once you translate those 3 habits into code, you can take all that raw, chaotic transaction data and turn it into the specific figures needed to keep the business running. Let's start with your most pressing question. Is the business actually growing? We need to see if sales are trending upward over time. The first hurdle is the date on your receipts. To a computer, the text 2023-01-15 is just a string of characters. It treats that text exactly the same way it treats the word banana. It doesn't know that the next day is the 16th, or that January has 31 days. We fix this by converting that text into a date-time object. We are teaching the computer how to read a calendar. Now it can recognize weekends, calculate the days between 2 events, and track the flow of time. Now that our timeline is functional, we can use the time telescope to examine our sales. This chart shows every single daily transaction over the past year. Because daily sales junk around so much based on weather or holidays, the graph is a blur. It's difficult to see a clear direction through all these jagged spikes. By zooming out on our telescope, we can group those daily numbers into monthly totals. Programmers call this resampling. By looking at the data month by month, the noise clears, showing a steady climb in sales. By defining time as a measurable object instead of random text, we can step back and evaluate the long-term health of the coffee shops. Now let's look at operations. You want to reward your hardest workers, so we need to find out which barista generated the highest sales today. We have a list of today's sales totals, linked to employee ID numbers, but the names of those employees live in a separate HR roster. These 2 lists are currently isolated. To bridge them, we use a process called joining, which merges separate datasets into one. Think of a guest showing their ID to a bouncer at a party. The name is on the guest list, the person is at the door, and the shared ID number is what connects them. We tell the computer to check every row on the sales list against the HR list using that shared number. When we perform an inner join, the computer identifies the matches. Everywhere those ID numbers line up, the data from both lists clicks together into a unified table. By merging these datasets, you take isolated pieces of information and build an interconnected picture of your staff's performance. Finally, let's look at tipping. We want to know the average tip your customers leave on each day of the week. To answer this, we use the group by operation. It follows a 3-step pattern: split, apply, and combine. Step 1 is the split. Imagine taking a massive stack of receipts and sorting them into 7 bins, 1 for each day of the week. It's the same logic as sorting mail by department. Next, we apply our math, calculating the average tip for each of those 7 piles. Finally, we combine those results into a summary table showing the daily averages. Databases prefer to read data in this long format, where tables are tall and narrow. Humans, however, usually prefer a wide format, where information reads from left to right, like a report. We solve this with a pivot operation. We rotate the data so that the days of the week become headers across the top, creating a layout that is easy to scan. By sorting the data into groups and then pivoting the results, you've extracted a specific insight and formatted it for your managers. Think back to that scrolling wall of raw transaction text we started with. Now your dashboard shows the sales trend line, the barista leaderboard, and the tip breakdown. You have the figures needed to make your next move. This transformation happens because you've scaled up everyday organizational logic. Reading calendars, checking lists, and sorting mail are familiar habits. Advanced analysis is simply teaching the computer to do those same things millions of a second. By using these wrangling tools, you can take an intimidating spreadsheet and build a roadmap to keep your coffee empire thriving.